Hey guys, welcome to another episode of TheCompletionist. For this episode, guys, I decided to do something a little different. About a year ago, I made a two-part video showcasing my game wall that I finally had a chance to set up over the last couple of years because when we initially moved into this house, everything was pretty much completed, but the basement was not. Literally, the basement was just one big empty space. And we spent the last 2 or 3 years, just trying to renovate the basement and, turn it into a rec room and a few other rooms as well. Because I needed somewhere to actually showcase my video game collection. Because until the basement got finished, my video game collection was pretty much scattered all over the place. Now, when I did my video about my game wall, I said about 90 to 95% of my games were on that wall. Now, the other 5% of the games are actually in these 3 boxes. So, what I wanted to do in this video, guys, is that I wanted to show you what games are actually inside these boxes, but it's a lot more than just simply showing the games that are actually inside these boxes. These are games that my wife and I absolutely adore. Some of them may be considered rare or valuable, others are definitely not. But one thing I don't think a lot of people realize is my wife was a very avid gamer, when we first met. Now, unfortunately, as we've gotten older and we've had more responsibilities, she's kind of lost interest in gaming, but she still has a soft spot for the games that mean a lot to her. And we've actually kept the games that mean the most to us inside these 3 boxes. And the reason why we do that is because we really want to take care of these games. We don't necessarily look at them, for monetary value. It's just that these games really mean a lot to us, and not only that, but we feel that these are literally the best games that we've ever had the pleasure of playing, and especially growing up with. And the funny thing is that there is something all 3 boxes have in common, and that is every one of these games are actually PlayStation 1 games. We've actually kept the games inside these boxes, for as long as we can remember. Even when we used to live in a basement apartment, a very long time ago, between 2004 and 2006, and we've always kept these games inside these 3 boxes, and we've never really put them out, with the rest of the video game collection. And when I open these boxes, we actually have every game, covered in paper towel, because all of these games are games that we actually bought the moment, either the moment they were released, or we bought them way before the video game collecting craze really started to kick in. So anyway, guys, so let me show you the PlayStation 1 games that meant the most to my wife and I. So with each game that I'm going to show, guys, I'm just going to tell just a very brief story of why this specific game meant a lot to me or my wife. So anyway, let's get started. So let's start with the glossy green and gold box. And the first game that we have is a game that my wife bought the moment it was released. She initially bought it for the Final Fantasy VIII demo disc, and this was before we had any previous knowledge of what Final Fantasy VIII was about. And that game is actually Parasite Eve. Now, this is a game that both my wife and I actually own. Sorry, didn't want to say actually own. We've actually played, and believe it or not, we've actually completed the game as well. My wife and I have done everything that this game has had to offer. Now, the funny thing is that we both had different ways of going about beating the secret boss in the game. She just totally maxed out Aya and just pretty much took the simplistic approach and just pretty much beat her into oblivion and just kept spamming liberate all the time. With me, I was a little craftier. I kept using a mix of pre-raise and energy shot because the secret boss in this game can kill you quite quickly. And so I always used to cast pre-raise to make sure that I wouldn't die and I wouldn't lose all my revives at the same time. And I used to use energy shot because, you know, you'd get a lot of damage on just one move. So and as far as I know, guys, I think this is the first Square game that actually achieved an M rating, and it's actually meant a lot to us. We do feel that, you know, this game is the best in the Parasite Eve series. It's too bad that the other two games tried to be something completely different, because I don't think anything will live up to the greatness of what the original game actually specified. So that's Parasite Eve. So, like I said, the piece of paper towel. The next game we have is a game we actually bought at a retro game store back in 2004. And it's a series that both my wife and I have liked. I think she has played this game. I have not. I've only played one game in this series. And this game is Wild Arms 2. Now, I don't have any experience with this game whatsoever. I haven't played it before. I think my wife has played it and she has beaten it. But I don't really have much to actually say about this game, because the only Wild Arms game I've ever played was Wild Arms 3 for the PS2. But, you know, if the Wild Arms series goes up to Wild Arms 5, then it must be a really good series. And I really enjoyed playing Wild Arms 3, so I can't wait to actually give this game a try, because you have to hand it to the PS1. You know, they actually had a lot of quality jrpgs at the time. Next game. And speaking of Parasite Eve, we have Parasite Eve 2. Now, this is another game I haven't had the chance to play yet, guys, but my wife has played and she has completely completed this game. She enjoys the game for the story aspect, but she didn't really enjoy what they did with the game and how much that they actually changed the battle system, and they kind of made it more of a Resident Evil style of game. I guess Resident Evil turn-based style of game. And I did eventually give this game a try. I found the controls really hard to get used to at first, but I played very little of it, maybe about an hour or 2 hours in. And now I will eventually get around to actually playing this game, because I do enjoy the Parasite Eve series. But with regards to my personal experience with the game, I literally have none, except for maybe, you know, the first hour or two. So anyway, that takes care of the games in the first box. So I just got to put it in back gently. We're actually going through a blizzard right now, guys, so I'm sure after I make this video and when I go to bed tonight, I'm probably going to have a fun morning shoveling snow. So, let me just grab a drink. So guys, in the second box, the first game we have is my wife's original copy of Final Fantasy VII, and it's actually the misprint copy. Now, this was before we even knew what a misprint meant, and, you know, I guess the misprinted black label version, I guess, is a little more rare than the other ones. Now, this is a game I have completed to 100%, and my wife has done so as well. The funny thing is that this was the first PlayStation 1 game I ever played, and the first PlayStation 1 game I ever owned. I recognize the greatness that Final Fantasy VII has. The thing is that, you know, there's much debate about, people will talk about, you know, what's the greatest Final Fantasy game ever. And as much as Final Fantasy VI is my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time, the one credit I will give to Final Fantasy VII is that if it wasn't for Final Fantasy VII, the JRPG genre would have never been as popular as what it was, especially in the PlayStation 1 genre. I think this game really helped get a lot of JRPGs into the North American market. And I just simply believe it's one of those timeless classics. I don't necessarily think it needs to be remade. I think the game still has enough strength on its own, even though some people feel that the graphics are a bit dated. But this will always remain a very important game to me because literally it was the first PlayStation 1 game I ever owned. Now, unfortunately, my copy, which was a greatest hits copy, just literally got thrown around all the place and was cracked, and after about a year and a half, the discs were pretty much scratched to hell, so it was pretty much a lost cause. But my wife actually kept her copy in incredible shape, like you wouldn't believe, and it's always remained an important RPG, to both me and her, and it's literally the reason why we own it. Right, next game, guys, is one of my games, actually. A game that my wife bought for me on eBay before the video game collecting craze really started. This was a game that I initially played on a burnt disc from my friend's PlayStation 1 collection. And this game really means a lot to me because this game, it didn't tell not necessarily as powerful of a story as Xenogears, but it was one of the first JRPGs that I did play on the PlayStation 1. And I love this game, for its humor. It had a tremendous amount of animation. It had a very recognizable opening theme song. And it was just a hilarious game, and I really enjoyed it from beginning to end. And that game is Thousand Arms. If memory serves me correctly, I think this is the first JRPG dating sim that ever had a North American release, but I could be mistaken, so I'm sure one of my viewers will probably correct me on that. But there's just a lot of things that I absolutely love about this game. I loved all the dating segments, all the voice dialogue, all the hilarity. It had very memorable characters, and even to this day, this game can still make you laugh. It's incredibly unique, and it's absolutely beautiful, especially for a PlayStation 1 game. I think this probably had one of the largest voice tracks I think the PlayStation 1 RPG library even had. And you can't get much more of a JRPG than this game, and I highly recommend people give it a try. It isn't necessarily a very long RPG. It's about 40 to 50 hours, but it's really enjoyable, and it's a very colorful RPG, and it's always going to remain one of my favorite PS1 games of all time. So, the next game is a game I bought, actually. My wife wasn't really interested in it, but it's another one of those games that's absolutely colorful. I haven't had a chance to complete it. I have played it a little bit, because when this game initially got released, not very many people knew about it, and even I didn't really know about this game until very late. I think I bought my copy back in 2006, and back when video game collecting really started to take off, this game was in very high demand. But this game just a couple of years ago got released on the Nintendo DS, and that's caused its demand to kind of drop down a bit. But I bought this game just because of its colorful nature, and I think this was really at the time that I really started to take notice of Atlas, and a lot of their really positive work, and especially the effort that they used to make to bring a lot of these obscure JRPGs to a North American audience. And that game is Rhapsody, a musical adventure. Like I said, I don't really have much to say about this game because I only played it a little bit. I only put maybe a few hours into it. It's a very adorable game, with a lot of voice dialogue as well. And it's just a really funny game. and it's cute all in the same moment. Now, from people that I've talked to, this game is actually very easy, and you can actually complete it pretty quickly. But you know, it pretty much came out at a time in which, you know, we were getting tons of JRPGs, and I think this one probably slipped under a lot of people's radar, and they didn't really give it much thought. But from what I played of it, it's a really adorable JRPG, and you know, eventually, you know, I'll find time to actually get this game completed. You know, the PS1 copy can still be found, you know, on eBay for a pretty good price, but you can also get the DS version as well. So that's that game. And the last game in this box, guys, is a game that I think is misunderstood, and I think it's hated for the absolutely wrong reasons. This game means a lot to me. It's a game that I have not completed. I have beaten. My wife has beaten as well. This game has the most beautiful video game soundtrack of all time, and it's not Xenogears. It's done by the same composer, Yasunori Mitsuda. But I think a lot of people went into this game expecting something similar, and they were quite disappointed by what they got. But I'm glad more and more people are really appreciating what this game brought to the table. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably guessed what it is, and that game is none other than Chrono Cross. For me, it's as I said before, I think this game is misunderstood. I think a lot of people went into it expecting Chrono Trigger and wanting Chrono Trigger and were disappointed by what they got. But I think this story in this game is so great, but yet so sad, all in the same moment. And I just think it's just a beautiful game from beginning to end. And I think Yasunori Mitsuda's greatest musical work is in this game. You have tracks like Radical Dreamers, Time Scar, Star Stealing Girl, Garden of the God, and many others. A lot of these tracks will remain like probably some of the greatest video game music that has ever graced the video games, period. And this game will always remain one of my favorite PS1 RPGs of all time. And I think, you know, if you go into this game just with an open mind, even though I'm sure a lot of my subscribers have probably already played this, as long as you go into it not expecting Chrono Trigger, I think you'll really enjoy it for what it tries to present. And like I said before, guys, it literally has my favorite this game is my favorite video game soundtrack of all time. So anyway, guys, that takes care of the games in this box. So just give me a few moments just to put the games back in, and paper towels as well.